look at a very important aspect of Excel that we have covered in an earlier section, just a little bit, but this video is dedicated to it, which is the pivot tables and pivot charts. Now, pivot tables and pivot charts are an amazing feature in Excel that allows us to do some quick analysis, where we can get summaries of our tables and quickly plot charts based on that summaries that we have, do some filtering. Makes it easy for us to do all that. So to create a pivot table, you first select the table that you want this pivot table to be based on. So some things to note, first of all, before you create a pivot table, is that your table, the data should be in a tabular format. So in other words, one row for your headers that we have here that describes every other thing in the data. So we know that this row is for the header, the other ID, and that tells us what is in every other row. Then another thing you need to make sure you do that you don't have blank rows or blank columns in your data, in your table. So let me to create my pivot table, I come to insert, and then I can select the pivot table. And you see here, a range is already selected for us. Excel automatically selects the range for us. And the reason why it did that is because my cursor, I had selected one cell that was inside that table. So immediately selected the range for us. So now, do we want this on a new worksheet or on this worksheet? We want it on a new worksheet. So we click OK, and then we see that we have a new worksheet created, and then we have all the headers here ready for us to start our plotting. So before you start plotting, before you start creating your pivot tables, you need to take a look at this section so that you can see and know what is supposed to be where. So we have four basic areas that you can put these figures, your columns into, and where you put it in determines how it looks and what it does. So I have a picture here that's like a guide for you to see what to do. Let me just copy it out here and put it here very quickly. Just paste it here. Okay, so now in a pivot table diagram, first of all, anything you put here is your filters. So whatever it is that you put here, you'll be able to filter the view of your data according to that view, according to the filter you apply. Therefore, the rows, these are your rows here. So whatever labels that you want on your pivot table, you put them in the row section that is here. For your values, whatever it is that you are measuring, so in this case it's revenue, so you put the revenue here. And then your columns is for how do you want to view that particular thing you are measuring. So we're looking at it in 2014, and we are looking at what categories of 2014 are we looking at it across the quarters here. So we have quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 for that year. So let's just build a simple pivot table to see how this works. So we can get something like our region here. We put the region, you see it automatically goes there. We could obviously drag and drop it there if we want. And then we want to look at, in this case, we want to look at our revenue. So we'll put our values. We're seeing a sum of revenue. I can decide to change that and say I want to look at the average or some other view of it. And I can also define the number formats there. So you see that we have north, east, south, west, and we have the revenue there. Let's say I want to view this across let me apply a filter here. Let's say the revenue for a look at product payment type. So let's put payment type as a filter there. So we have 3 payment types. We have the cash, the check, the credit card, and some that were not stated. So if I select the credit card and I click OK, it's showing me the revenue based on the credit card. Look at this. You notice that this figure changed. If I change it back to just cash, you see that we have just in the east and west, the cash payment happened. So let's just leave it as all there. We can get rid of this. To remove something from here, you just take it out and just bring it outside and it will disappear. I can decide to look at this at various categories. Where's the category? Various categories. So here I have different categories inside my regions there. So you can put it underneath. You can also put it above, and so every category of products that we have, see which regions they are coming, the sales are coming out from. Let me move the regions here and let's see what's going on with our categories. These are all the categories that we have here. These are what the revenue we are getting from them per region. So we can see north says to west, north and south, north, east and north here for baked goods and mixes. And then these other ones, we have all these figures flying around. And then of course we have the grand totals there. Then, and there's also an awesome feature. Let me get rid of this. Don't need this anymore. There's also an awesome feature. Let's simplify this so it doesn't get too confusing. So there's also an awesome feature in let's get it back to region. Okay, so there's also an awesome feature in this okay, we only have one country. So now let's say I want to create a pivot chart out of this pivot table. It's very easy. On the pivot table there, I can go to pivot chart. Let's look at recommended charts and let's see what it gives us. See, we have this here. Let's pick this, and we have okay, and we have this here, a pivot chart. And you see that any formatting that occurs, take a look. Any formatting that occurs here, anything we change here is obviously going to affect the chart. So let's say we change this to average, change the number format to currencies, and then we okay that, then we okay this. See that we have different figures here. Figures have changed here, where we have the average values for the west, for the south, for the north, and for the east, the average revenue. And this is the average of everything that we have there. Let's take it back to some, just to show you that that could be done. So you see we have pretty decent charts here. We could of course change the what is written in there, then to some revenue, or let me just do revenue by regions, revenue by regions, and could go ahead and do some filtering, some formatting of the charts, increasing transparencies and all that. So feel free to go ahead and play around with the pivot chart, add something, remove something that you want, and see what happens. So another awesome thing that we have with the pivot chart is something called the slicer. So now the slicer makes it faster and easier to filter tables and pivot tables and charts. So in this case, we have just one of these. So let's create another pivot table. Let us insert a new pivot table here, and let's come here and select data in this range, and then I want it to be on, I want the location of this to be here. So let me just put it here, and then I press enter. So I have a pivot table here. So now let us create another pivot table. So let's say I want to look at by state, which is too much. It's something a lot smaller. Let's look at salespersons. How many salespersons do we have? Okay. Look at the revenue from each salesperson. Format this correctly to currency. Then currency. Then we okay that. Then we okay this. So we have this here, and now I want to make this up a little bit so that we can calculate. Let's make this bit. View space this. Yeah, so we have that there, and then close this. So we have this here. We just open it on that, so you can see it. So now in this chart, this pivot table that we have here, let me drag this and put this here so you can see it. So now if we come to this pivot table, we can okay, so just in case you close this at any point, you can always come to the analyze and go to field list to open up. So now I want to show you a feature called the slicer. So now inserting a slicer is simple. On a particular pivot table, you can add a filter. So if I want to look at this and across the states, so I have different states here. So I can filter by whatever state this is, and I have the agent that is there, whatever state this is, and I have the agent that is there. If I want to do multiple items, I select like 3 states, and I have the agents that represents there. And then let's say I add some more states, and I have regions there. So and let me clear this. Okay, all. Now that's a filter only affects a particular pivot table. So now if on this revenue, if I want to add a filter here, we are looking at the region. So let me add categories there. So let me take category filter and put there. So we have a lot of categories here. So let's say condiments. This is what came out from our condiment, and because we made this table, this chart from that table, that's why it adjusted it accordingly. So but now we want to be able to have control of all our data on this pivot table and pivot chart at once. So in a way that we can apply one filter and it will be applied across both of them. So here we have categories, here we have states. So let us let's create a category filter, so let me just get rid of this here. Then let me create a pivot chart with that, let's do something simple. Let us do something simple here. Okay, and just resize it for okay a little bit smaller so fits into this position. I want you to just notice the changes that will occur when we alter what is in them. So now see that here when we change something here, we have in this place when we say filter something by just Ann Larson, you see that it's affecting this chart. So that chart is connected to that filter, but this chart is not. This chart is only connected to this that pivot table. Sorry, that chart is connected to that pivot table. This chart is also connected to this pivot table. So now I want to be able to create some filtering that will allow me to view every look at one view, let's say category. So filter everything by their category and then plus the charts. Now why is this important? When you want to create a dashboard, you want to be able to have just one point where you apply a filter or a slicer, and then it is applied across all your visuals or the visuals you want it to be applied across. So to do that, we'll just quickly create a slicer. So let us insert a slicer. Insert a slicer here, and then we want the slicer to be category. Do we have categories? Okay, we want the slices to be categories. Where's categories? Have categories. Select that. Click on OK. So we see we have categories here. Okay, so let us make this okay, so I just meant this way so we can hear it now. So now these slices, now if we hit on this, is only affecting the revenues by region. It's not affecting this. Let me change this name to revenue by sales rep. So it's not affecting this, it's only affecting that. So for us to be able to make this slicer to affect to work on every filter, we'll come to the options and then we'll click on report connections here. So now this is the slicer that we have. This slicer we have selected. Now it's telling us that it's only connected to this pivot table. And which pivot table is that? That is our pivot table in sheet 1. But now we want it to also be connected to this second pivot table in sheet 2. So if I come and in sheet 1, this pivot table 2 in sheet 1. So if I click on this and I OK this, then now let's do this and just watch. This pivot table will also change and this chart will also respond. So you look here that we have our slicer and it is affecting every single column. We can multiple select more than one slicer, and then we have it across our selections. Select one, we have it across like that and all that. So this is really an awesome feature. As you can see, we are already on our way to doing some simple analysis, and here we have already started creating some simple reports. Here we have our revenue by regions that we created from here. We have our revenue by sales rep that we also created from there.